Hello, this is Eric Benson. I'm the head designer at Dantia Dental Solutions. And today I'm just going to discuss a little bit about anterior designs and keeping the morphology, being able to mirror, copy, and the tools we can use to help maintain that twin or exact replica of the tooth next to it. 7 and 10, 8 and 9, and just some of the tools that I like to use to help maintain that mirrored look between and just getting the beautiful smile, but able to achieve it quickly and effectively. And so hopefully this will be kind of a helpful video in that along those veins. So let's start with one thing I like to do is I like to create a home button or home position, and this is just a super quick version of it. Over here on the right, set front view, click that top box, boom. Next thing you know, this Control Alt Home is pre-programmed into a button on the side of my mouse that takes me there. It's just a quick way of just keeping from wasting time spinning around trying to get back to one position. Just boom, there it is. Okay, a lot of times you'll see this on anteriors, these buttons all over the place, or these dots all over the place. So you have to actually tell it where the margin is on these kinds of cases, and there really is no rhyme or reason to it. You just hit mouse button in the points window and just left click and create a circle. Next, it'll give you another option to do it. Make sure that one's good. Another option. Looks good. Sometimes it'll give you an option to do one, and then you have to hit the mouse button again, and then it'll give you an option to do all three. It's kind of redundant, but that's what happens. What I like to do with anteriors is I like to set my insertion direction as lingual as possible. And once you find the right view, you just hit set and it'll just automatically reset to that view. Now we're going to do the margin. I'm mostly just rolling around and verifying the margin. For the most part, the software gets it, but I'm just verifying. This might be redundant to some people, but I figured we'll just hit the steps while we're here. Next button. Alright, I'm going to clean this up a little here on the distal, the mesial. Okay. Now we're going to do the die interface. In a case like this, I think we got pretty good margins. We may be a little close on the distal lingual of number 7 here, but on a case like this with bridge or veneers, I typically do this in the settings window. I do remove undercut, uncheck that, and what that does is it just magnetizes the die spacer all the way down to the margin, no matter if there is an undercut or not. Hit next. I do it again on this one. I always do preview half the time. Most of the time I do preview just to verify if there's anything I don't like about it. Next, preview again. Alright, it's a pretty good setup. And I know for sure there's no open margins because I did remove undercut. Now here is our proposed tooth position. This is a library that I use. It's my custom 3 and custom 4 library. I use the same one every time. So let's do this. Next we're going to align the tissue scan, which is the double prep. Go down here to the bottom left, additional scans, hit align, double preparation upper. That's the scan we're moving, and we want to align it to what's called the preparation scan. Okay, we use points. So you guys know A and S. S is for working arch, A is for antagonist. So I don't have to slide over here and waste time. I just hit the button. Okay, turn that, hit the spot right there, generic spot in the middle, generic spot in the middle, hit align. I use my prep as an alignment tool. Now, full arch case, this is really helpful because you have nothing to align to but the preps. So you align to the preps, you turn off the working arch, and your pre-prep gives you something you can align your double preparation that's aligned to those preps. It gives you the ability to use the tissue to align your what's called your pre-preparation to that. Okay, but it's not quite lined up, so let's pre-prep, boom, and then move. I'm going to get it out of the way. Now I'm going to line it up to the buccal of this tooth and this tooth. Now, like I said, on a full arch you'd have to align it to the tissue, and since you don't have any tissue on your working arch, you align it to the double preparation, like this, boom. Okay, but since we have something to align to, we'll align it to the preparation arch, the working arch. It looks like it's not quite lined up here, but showing here, it's pretty lined up. It could be just some corruption on the side, or it's not quite a good, accurate model. Okay, now these two dots for this company that I designed for, these two dots here are a level, telling me I put my line right through the center of that and right through the center of this. And what that does is it gives me a level point to this way or this way to prevent cants, the patient's teeth rising upward one side or the other. I turn on these cross lines here, and then I make it extra large here, and then I drop it down and I move it more towards the center of the screen. Okay. Once I have that, left click moves that. Once you got that lined up where you want it, and then you take and then your scroller ball, or scroller wheel, use that to move the model, and then you align those two along that hash line up there, and then you adjust it till they're both in the center. What I do is I turn the pre-prep off because this company, this lab, they want me to ignore this. These two dots take precedence over what I see here in the temporary or the pre-prep. So I'm going to center that on the arches, center, those dots fairly close. I'm going to turn it this way to get a good center position here. I'll do my best to find what I would call the midline. It's not as easy on this one because we don't have two preps there. Just gonna give me something to go by here. Okay, I'm gonna go look at the email. Okay, there's no email for length, but sometimes it'll give you a length to measure for the centrals and the laterals. Okay, so I think I've got a pretty good setup here. Okay, turn this off, and I'm going to return it back on, and I'm going to reset that. So now I come back to that spot every time. Now I'm good to go for design. What I'm going to do is make this a little translucent, turn on my crowns mostly opacious, and now I'm going to hit what's called Q, which is group transformation, which is the Q button. Multiple teeth tools, Q is this one. That gives me the ability to grab a handle and move all the teeth at the exact same time. Then I'm going to go back to my home screen. By the way, the pre-prep here, it's P on the keyboard, and also I've got it pre-programmed into a button on my mouse also, so I can turn it on and off at will. Do this, I'm watching my centrals here. Now I'm watching my rotation. Looking good there. It's fairly lined up. Now what I'm looking at is the width and length of these things, the pre-prep. I'm going to drop the length down just a hair. Add a little bit more length to the centrals here, just the centrals. Actually, let me show you something else here. Once you're in this mode, which is the individual transformation mode, there's a couple different things that you can use to keep these things 100% uniform. As of right now, these two centrals are exact mirrored objects of each other. Now, if I want to do something like change the distal of this tooth, I'll have to come over here and do the same thing here. Well, there's a tool you can use. It's called symmetric design. You can turn this on, and anytime you grab the green or yellow handles, the tooth next to it will follow. Okay, watch. I'm not even touching the keyboard. That or that. Okay, I don't like that, but you can also use that by in the keyboard. Shift button, hold the shift button down, grab one of those handles and move it. Okay, it does it both at the same time on both teeth. I'm tapering that in. I'm going to bring it out just a little to get more of a straight up and down, not crowding the lateral as much. Okay, now I'm going to add some length to both my centrals. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at the lateral. I'm going to add a little length to the laterals. A little too much. I don't like this. So I'm just going to add length to this guy. We'll bring these back down, these CEJs back down later after the margins are connected. Okay. Now what I'm seeing here is we've got a little winging out of the laterals here. Now I could do one of two things. It's another tool you can use. I can either angle this in, angle this in. Another thing you can do is, watch this, go back to the Q button, okay, grab this green handle, watch, see how the teeth are stretching? One other way to kind of bring those things in and just kind of soften things a little bit, okay, as a group. Now we need to turn on our collision lines to see where we're really colliding, okay? I think things are looking okay. I'm looking at my centrals on the distal to see where if they hang over too much over my laterals, we're going to have an issue cutting a contact there. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to get as wide of centrals as possible or match the pre-prep the best as possible without colliding too much on those laterals. I think we're in a good position with our centrals and the distals. So I'm going to take the mesials of my laterals, shift button in the D, which is also the individual transformation mode, hit D or click on here. Okay, hold down the shift button. I'm sliding that forward. Both laterals moved at the same time. So as of right now, for the most part, all four of our teeth are 100% symmetrical. Okay. Another thing you can use to keep things symmetrical, see how I flatten out those central cusp, the incisal edges are? Well, here's the problem. If I go into my morphing tool and I add and square out this tooth a little bit, what's going to happen? I just made changes to this one. How do I get it over here without just eyeballing it and fixing it? There's a mirroring tool you can use, which is called, it's this one right here, mirroring, which is also the C tool. Click on that, click on the tooth I made the changes to, click the button, and all of a sudden it literally mirrors. It takes it back to 100% precision and being 100% mirrored precisely this tooth here. So for instance, just to be crazy, watch this. See? Boom. Just like that. Okay? So there's multiple tools you can use to keep things in that mirrored platform. Okay? Another thing you can do is in the D individual transformation tool, if you need to grow and shrink a tooth, I can hold down the control button, control, grows and shrinks the tooth, or I can hit the shift and control button at the exact same time and watch what happens. Shift and control button, they both follow each other. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll make a bunch of changes to one tooth. I'll do this, I'll do, make the changes I want to make to it. And then once I make all those changes I want to it, I hit the mirroring tool and it'll make all those changes, okay? But there's a bunch of tools, here's a bunch of tools you can use to maintain that 100% mirrored, basically keep things uniform, okay? Now, I'm going to shorten these centrals just a hair by using the Q tool or shift tool. Another tool that can be used is, I use this a lot when full arches, right here, arc transformation. What this tool does is you grab one tooth and everything kind of follows, okay? You have to be gentle in the anterior region or else you'll make a mess. If I move this tooth, next thing you know, I lost my uniformity. I can do things like crowd, didn't really lose much of the uniformity. I can pull out a little bit, didn't really lose much of the uniformity. I can pull things down a hair, didn't really lose much. So in the anterior region, you got to be really careful with it. You can also change the amount that it's affected. It goes up to 5 pieces. And the higher you go, the more teeth it'll affect. So if I'm grabbing this down here and I have it set for 4, it will grab this tooth, this tooth, this tooth, and this tooth and move 4 teeth at a time, okay? So you can change the intensity of that. Okay, now go back to slightly translucent and turn this pre-prep on all the way just to kind of see where I'm at. Okay, I think we're looking fairly decent. Now I'm going to focus on getting things near my margins. Okay, large circle of influence, control button. I'm going to slide up with the left click slide up with the left click. Do it over here, control button, slide up with the left click with a really large circle of influence. The shift button will change that, and the scroll and shift will change that at the same time. Mind you, this entire time I've got my hand permanently fixed on the shift or the control button. Okay, I'm getting things nice and close to the margins. I'm thinning out on the linguals. Get my margin nice and close. Okay. Now I got to worry about down here. So how do I handle that? Do I ruin my CEJ by stretching this entire tooth? Or, because it's a pontic, I come in here and I stretch out underneath here, and I leave my CEJ alone, and I can clean it up a little bit afterwards. Okay. I didn't really make too many changes to the buckle. All I did was just added a little bit to there, underneath the pontic site. Okay. Checking my contacts, they look good. Checking my contact, things look pretty decent. I think we're okay here. I'm going to tuck this in a little bit. We'll have to deal with this later, but I'm tucking it in. Spitting this back out a little. Okay. Something I don't like about my library, the distals of these lateral incisal edges. I'm going to beefing that up a little bit. Beefing that up, hit my C button. That followed it. Sometimes it moves the tooth though, unfortunately, so what's better? Sometimes it's better to just make those small changes. But when you're first getting going, I really like to set my teeth placement, my widths, and my incisal embrasures all at the same time first. Once that's done, I copy to the mirror tool, and I shift and grow and all that stuff at the same time, and really keep that uniformity. And then once I get my incisal edges exactly where I want them, my lengths, widths, and all that kind of stuff, then we'll start worrying about the margin, the linguals, that kind of stuff. As long as it looks good here, everything else can be faked down here and faked from the lingual. Okay? Now, by the way, Control S is save. Sometimes on full mouth cases it will crash once, at least once during a design, so I count on that, but it's just a habit that I've gotten into, just randomly saving, and I've got that Control S is what does it, but I've also got that pre-programmed into my mouse. Okay, now I'm going to set my margins, which is connect to margin line, but at the same time it's also, you see that, it's N on the keyboard, N. Okay, now I'm going to hit play, double play, which is apply to all. Let it sit for a second. Okay, now they're all connected. Now we're going to have to do some cleanup here. I'm going to take my laterals, shrink the height of them a little bit. So now that we've got things where we want it, I can come in here and I can fake things by moving. I can drop, see how I can drop down the CEJs? It's kind of cool. Okay. Same thing with my centrals here. Drop down my CEJs. Turn on my tissue model, look and see what we got. Okay. I don't like the CEJ as much, so I'm going to add a little bit here. Create more of one. Bulk this out just a hair. Okay, now I'm going to add back up here. Okay, now a little beefed up there. I don't like the way that line, but I can fix that. Okay. Things are looking pretty good. I'm going to turn this off just temporarily so I can kind of see what we're looking at here. The other thing I don't like about my library as much as I'm going to fix is these spots right here on the distal, or on the lingual interproximals. It's a little too scooped out for me. Every time I design, I have to add back here in these areas. The nice thing is, having customizable library, I can go into the library in the control panel and make those changes. Now I see the distal of this lateral is winged out, but I'm trying to figure out if I should really, let's do this. Let's pull out the mesial, get less of a winged look. See how these teeth are still fairly uniform? I'm going to smooth out CEJ. Notice how I just went to the wax knife tool. Okay, that is the G on the control panel or on the keyboard. G, wax knife, plus minus smooth, and I've got 1 through 5 pre-programmed to how I want it. 3 is a smoothing tool, but not as intense. 4 is super smoothing, and what I mean by as intense, this is the intensity, this is the size of the circle. You can change the size of the circle, you can change the size of the intensity. Shift always changes the size of the circle, Control always changes the size of the intensity. This is plus, this is take away, this is addition, take away, smooth, okay? I've got them all pre-programmed after designing. They've become individual tools is what they've become. G4 is I'm just cleaning things up, adding a lot of smoothing. I really want to make a lot of changes with a wax knife tool. G1 is adding back without a lot of without over emphasizing change. I just want to add a little here, add a little there. 2 is take away, just a little here and there. I'll show you here in a second. Okay, so we'll go to G2, I'm going to take just a hair off right there, a little off right there. Okay. 3 is smoothing, smoothing things out. 1, add just a little bit back. I'm just kind of using this as an example. Okay. Now, I don't like this right here, so what I'm going to do is in my other anterior design videos, you'll see how we use the J tool, the plane cut tool. I always have it set to -0.3, cut between teeth. This means the negative means they're leaving in collision with each other. And then let's change it to 0.4, 0.5. This is a smoothing, rounding the edges of the cut. I'm going to angle from here. I'm going to draw a line, like in geometry, straight from there to there. Okay. Turn it off. Come straight on from the midline. This is a bridge, but since I'm drawing, since I want really nice clean lines and approximately between teeth, I might as well just use a plane cut tool, and it just creates this perfect contact between the two. Okay. Once that's there, I can come in here and I can do my contact on the distal of this tooth. -7 is where we keep that. Okay. This tooth also, I'm going to leave that contact a little heavy because I want the two laterals to mirror each other. Drop this back down to -0.7. Whoops, a little too heavy, but that's okay. Okay, so now we've got some contact on the lingual to address. Now I could do a couple things. I could hit play, whoops, I can hit double play here and let it just scoop things out and make changes. That works, but a lot of times I don't like, it's 50-50. Sometimes I'll let the computer work, sometimes I'll do it manually. It really depends on the case. This is a rough one, it's kind of scooped out there. Okay. I'm going to bring this up just a hair. Okay. I'm going to clean this up just a little bit. Distal. Okay, how's it look? I don't like to smooth that. Well, I kind of like what we got. Now I'm going to hit the Pontic. Boom. It's going to clean up the Pontic zone. Now I'm going to come in here and turn on my color mapping. I'm going to smooth out the lingual. I'm going to get more of a ridge lap. Lift up the lingual. I'm going to take away a little on this hot spot here, and I'm going to add to the buccal where it's just touching, just in case. You can remove a little later if they want to, and then I'll leave it there for now. I'm going to add back a little right here. Okay, I'm going to smooth out this, add a little bit back. Okay, now I think we look pretty good with what we're working with here. Now, next phase is a finalization phase. This is where it turns all 4 of these into one solid piece. Now that it's one solid piece, I can make some changes that I want to make. This company likes this to happen interproximally. Smooth out interproximally, build up that contact, especially down at the gingiva. Build it up, fill in as much of this under here gap as much as possible. Bring the material all the way down to the margin. Basically what we're doing is we're bringing the material all the way down to the margin. Smoothing out a little bit more on this ridge lap pontic area. Doing the same thing over here. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit back here. I'm going to make sure this is as low as possible. Same thing here. Make sure this is as low as possible. Beef this up a little. Beef up that contact. Since it's a bridge, let's just give it extra material here. In the contact zone, and we can, let's do it. All that extra material. They can grind that off, but it just gives us something to play with. Alright? I like this bridge. Finalized, and we'll call it done. Thank you very much.